By the way, just because you wanted a comfy seat, I'm totally fine with that. Like, if you're just like, I've been cosplaying all day, and I'm really, really tired, and I don't care who you are, it's totally fine with me. You do not need to leave. I fully expect this, I really do. So I started acting technically when I was still within my mother's womb. Both my parents are actors, and when my mom was pregnant with me, her agent said, "Hey, you want us to represent your kid when he's born?" And she said, "Sure." So they signed a contract, and I technically I was doing it. So I was brought into this world, and once I was not covered in fluid, they started auditioning me for stuff for like commercials and things like that. And despite my mother's wishes, I continued to be an actor because she was like, "No, you need to go to college, you need to get a degree so that you can get a real job." So I did go to college, I did get a degree. Didn't help at all. My degree is in television and film, so it's like basically like what I'm kind of doing already anyway. It's wound up being totally useless. So the moral of the story is don't go to college, kids. I'm a dumb actor, I know nothing. Animation for me was like, it was like that one thing that really stood out because when I was a kid, I would do TV shows and I would do some movies, and I would get recognized by kids at school and just tormented for it because it's that kind of thing of like, you were a big character in like a minor TV show that nobody saw. You must think you're somebody special. Well, I'm gonna beat you down and prove you wrong. I'm like, I don't know you. I know it was garbage. I don't even see any of this money. It goes into a bank account my mom has set up for me. It's like, yeah, you must think you're some kind of millionaire hotshot. Oh yeah, well I'll show you. I'm like, no. So when I started doing animation, it was like this eye-opening experience for me because my own friends actually saw the very first cartoon I ever did, which was the animated series of Problem Child. I don't know if you guys remember those movies. It was like starring John Ritter. One guy does. It was like in the 80s. I don't know why they thought, let's make a cartoon show of it. Okay, 2 people. But like I played the lead character. My own friends watched the show, had no idea it was me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I get to act and nobody knows who I am, so I don't have to deal with all that stuff. That's what I want to do. I want to keep acting, but I just want it to all be cartoons and voiceover. And so one thing just kind of led to another. I went from doing that to doing Hey Arnold back in the 90s, and it was like, yeah. And it was like kind of a dream come true. I got to just hang out with other kid actors who all went through the exact same experience that I went through. I was like, I'm not alone. This is really something special for me. I just kind of kept at it, and that's why I'm kind of where I am today. So it's sort of like, it was destiny. No, but it was my parents just making decisions for me, and I wound up liking it, and that's why I am here now. And I'm willing to bet that was under 10 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah. See, yeah. Can't escape the curse. Then you're welcome.
5 minutes.
It was 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Son of a
new record.
Biscuit. This isn't an 18+ meal, so I will do my best to watch my language, but I don't see any minors. Is anybody here offended by curse words, by the way? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody?
No.
Nobody? Okay, good. Thank fucking God. I used to be like really, really pure and innocent. But then I did this cartoon show. It was called Codename Kids Next Door. Awesome. And I was introduced to the lovely and talented Cree Summer. And Cree's a fantastic, wonderful human being. And she met me and she was like, oh, baby. Oh, I'm gonna ruin you. And she did, and ever since then I've become the most foul-mouthed person that I know, and I know a lot of really foul-mouthed people. And so, so thank you. Thank you for letting me swear, because shutting my fucking mouth. And of course, it's being recorded too, so that's perfect.
It's just gonna be worse if someone walks in.
Oh yeah, and you know what's gonna happen to it? It's gonna be a kid. It's gonna be like somebody, I brought my 5-year-old. Oh my God, no! And so, yeah. You guys been having a good con so far? I know it just kind of started, but it's been nice.
Yeah.
These are like my favorite conventions because they're not enormous, where like everybody's packed in like sardines. Like I've done Anime Expo, and like, well, I like it. It's cool. After day one, I'm like, I want to die. and that's what like people helping me out, going like, yo man, we'll take you through the back way so you don't have to wait through. I'm like, yo, you don't understand. It's still horrible. Everybody's packed in here and I can't breathe. And I'm like, I'm that guy. I'm also super freaking crazy ticklish. So like anybody even doing this towards my stomach scares the crap out of me. And like that whole thing is just elbows and cosplay and just and you know, and you have to be polite because you don't want to be that guy, you know, who's just like, hey man, get the fuck out of my way. Shit. You know, and then they're like, oh, Ben Diskin's the meanest guy ever. He was so rude to me. I was just trying to walk past him and he started screaming about being ticklish. I don't know. So no, I like cons like this. People are all really cool and like it's just a nice experience. It's way less stressful. Oh yeah. Oh my god, yeah. So, because I don't really know what the heck this panel is supposed to be, by the way, nobody actually told me.
It's a Q&A.
It's a Q&A!
You're going right at it, so.
Oh my god, oh thank god. Thank you, Cody. We call him Pretty Boy. I swear everybody in like everybody on the staff seems to have like a nickname. So we've got like Puppy, we've got You're Now Pretty Boy. Apparently, poor Cody. But I mean, that's not a bad one. And then another guy named Hatchet. So like, and it's just like okay, it's easier to remember than Eric. So, but I guess, okay, so the Q part would come from you guys. Here's what I think we should do so that nobody's miserable in here. We'll do questions, and then if everybody's basically out of questions, even if we have like, 30 minutes left, I'm not going to make you sit here and just stare like a bunch of weirdos. If you don't have anything to say, you're just like, I don't want to leave. We'll call it a day. We'll early, okay? Sound good? Sound fair? Okay. So, I guess show of hands, who would actually have a question for me? One person. Okay, thank you.
Give it a second, man.
This is going to be fast. Okay.
Okay, so mine's kind of weird, but I'm a middle school teacher, and I have some kids in my video production class that are obsessed with anime, and a couple of them I think are interested in voice acting. So I'm wondering, would you have any advice for middle school kids who are looking to go into that, and can I record you saying the advice so I can go back, show it to them, and make them really jealous?
Okay.
Okay. Well, they asked me why I'm taking a sub day, and I told them I was going to an anime con, so they're all mad at me right now. Because somehow I ended up with, like, one of my classes, all 20 kids are anime obsessed. It's great, but it's
Where
also...
were you when I was growing up?
Unfortunately, also growing up, so...
Oh, I guess that's fair. Yeah. Okay, so the question is advice for now. I'm assuming specifically talking about getting into anime voice acting.
Yeah, I
so,
think that would be it.
First of all, one of the weird misconceptions about just the voiceover industry in general is, oh, it's this thing, it's just your voice, so you can just do it from home in like your underwear, and that's totally fine. That's the voiceover industry. There are certain websites, such as like voices.com, which really is that. It's you doing everything from home. You have to do your own editing, your own recording, you have to set up your own recording environment. But if you want to do anime, the sad truth is you need to move to where the anime is. So basically, if you don't want to leave the country, you're looking at 3 places. You're looking at New York, you're looking at Texas, and you're looking at Los Angeles. So you have to be willing to uproot and move. That's the number one thing, and it's the thing that everybody runs into and goes, oh, well, I like this, but yo man, I have a whole life here. I can't just like pack my bags and leave. But that's what unfortunately has to happen. So I can't speak about Texas, which is where Funimation and Sentai are, because I've never been to Texas to do any kind of anime work. Same thing with New York. I'm not super familiar with it, but I will say this. If you are serious about doing anime voiceover and you're in LA, your best bet, and it's unfortunately going to cost you, is you have to take lessons. Specifically, you want to take Tony Oliver's class at Bang Zoom. Bang Zoom is one of the, I would say the 2 major studios in the Los Angeles area that do anime recording. The other one would be Studiopolis. The reason why you would want to take Tony's class is simply because he's right there. It's at Bang Zoom. And so if they see you in class and they go, yo, you're really good at this, we like you, they can actually like start putting you in shows. And so that's easily the most direct route. Unfortunately, it's like $300 to take that class, and not everybody has, yeah, exactly. Not everybody has $300 to throw around, but those are the realities. I would say if you're really thinking about this, maybe you're in high school or middle school. You're probably not old enough to just uproot and leave your parents and rent a place in Los Angeles. That's kind of ridiculous. But once you come of age, so to speak, I would say save up some money. Basically, I would gather together a bare minimum of $5,000. Find other roommates who want to move out to Los Angeles, and in the meantime, practice. Anime is all about rhythm, and it's all about being able to deliver a performance within that rhythm, because it's pre-existing mouth flaps. So, for instance, the easiest thing you can do is watch a lot of anime. It's what I did. My very first anime was one called Blood Plus, and I'd never done any dubbing before in my entire life. But because I just watched so much of it, and I'd gotten used to just hearing that, I don't want to call it anime speak, but it's that sort of like, it's just a way people talk when they're being forced to supply a voice for pre-existing mouth movements. And I heard it so much, I was like, oh, I get it, I know how that sounds, and I was able to deliver on it. If you're musical at all, that's a big plus, because even if you play an instrument, or you can sing, or something like that, rhythm is a huge part of this, like I said. So the ADR beeps, boop, 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 talk. And so if you're just good at just understanding how things flow, you can wind up basically being a natural right out of the gate. So let's say you practice at home. That's how you spend more or less your formative years, and then you actually get enough money together, you get a bunch of friends who all want to do the same thing, you go out, you rent a place in Los Angeles, you go to Bangzoo, you pay for the workshop, and you get started, and you'll already have a leg up on a lot of the other people who are out there. The big misconception, I would say, is that it's easy because it's just talking, and you'll find that if all you do is talk into a microphone like what I'm doing right now, nobody's going to hire you. They want real performances. So along with the rhythm, take acting lessons. It's going to give you a huge leg up because you'll already come out ready to act, ready to perform, and you'll be pretty much good to go. But just know, this is the entertainment industry. It isn't like, oh, it's the voiceover thing, and that's separate. It's very similar to moving out to Los Angeles trying to be a celebrity. It's like, you hear all the success stories, right, of like, oh, this guy came from nowhere, but then he became huge. But what you don't hear are like the hundreds of thousands of people who came out of nowhere, didn't mean to anything, and moved back home. So make sure it's really something you want to do. It is a life-changing decision, and it's not one to be taken lightly. I would say that's probably the best advice I could give you. Yes, sir, the back.
So, what animes do you enjoy personally? Like, are you an SAO kind of person? Or do you like more Dragon Ball Super? Or
I haven't seen any of Super yet, because I was just getting my girlfriend. She hadn't seen any of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, so I've gotten her caught up for all of Dragon Ball Z, and we just got the Buu Saga on Blu-ray. A friend of mine has it, he let us borrow it. So now that she's all caught up, now I finally want to actually start watching Super so I can see. I've seen the movie, both the first two, Resurrection F and Battle of Gods. I'm kind of like, well, can I skip some episodes? Because I know it's kind of retells for a little while, but I am a Dragon Ball fan. I have not seen much of Sword Art Online, despite being in it as Death Gun. But it's a cool show. I like it. I'd say probably my favorite anime. It might still be Death Note.
yeah!
That show is awesome. I love that so much. Yeah. I couldn't ask for a better English dub for that too. I really liked the casting. I thought it was just spot on and really, really solid. Yeah, I would say Death Note's probably my favorite. And I do try to just kind of like, I watch One Punch Man, of course, and some of the other bigger like stuff, just to kind of like understand what people are watching. Really, it's kind of part of my job. It's basically research. It's what is this stuff? Why are people liking this? Okay, because if it ever comes to be dubbed, I want to know this is the style they're going for. This is the kind of performance, so that I'm not completely off the mark. But so I like it, and I also watch it for work purposes, which is great because it's a tax write-off. Oh yeah, thank you. Cha-ching. Yes, no.
For Death Note, have you watched the live-action movie on Netflix?
Yes, I have.
Oh.
Okay, so here's the thing. I am probably one of the few people who loves the original and also actually kind of liked it. I like everybody else like, it's the worst thing ever, it's whitewashing, it's garbage, but I'm like, you know what? I mean, it's going for something different. Like, they changed a lot of stuff. Like, Light doesn't act like Light Yagami, he's Light Turner. It's a different character. And, like, the way they handled it, I didn't really hate it. I actually was like, okay. The only thing that I didn't like is that there's a lack of consistency in it, which is where they basically started off defining Light Turner specifically as, like, a guy who's actually pretty altruistic. Like, he's like, no, I'm only going to kill bad guys. I am not going to, like, I'm not going to kill no FBI guys. Hell no. And it's like, oh, that's different. That's cool. But then towards the end, he makes this, like, crazy plan right at the spur of the moment, which is a total, like, Yagami thing to do. And I'm like, I don't, like, no, you can't suddenly make him become, like, a freaking genius. And it's like, make up your mind which one do you want him to be. L starts out exactly like L, and then he becomes, like, completely unhinged. And I'm like, no, that's not L. Just make up your mind which one do you want it to be. But other than that, I actually give them props. At least they tried something different. They didn't just do the exact same story that's in the manga and the anime. I already have the manga. I already have the anime. I like it the way it is, and that's always going to be there for me. So I don't feel like I needed another thing that's just like that. I guess that's how I feel about it. Yes, sir.
Other end of the spectrum from her, I'm in college right now and I'm looking to get into this sort of thing. What sort of classes should I be taking? Should I be looking at like a transfer to USC or UCLA? I already work. I have a stable income. I can get that money together. But I just want to know what I should be doing in my private life sort of to get myself really ready to make this step.
Depends. Where are you trying to get to? What part of the country?
LA.
LA. Okay.
Or New York. Either works. Okay. But since you know more about LA, I was asking specifically about that.
So New York is primarily promos and commercials. Mm-hmm. So if that were your thing, that's okay. I would say definitely head to New York. Mm-hmm. Los Angeles is basically voice acting mecca right now. It's where everybody winds up trying to get to. Mm-hmm. Just know that that's something to consider. Because of that, it's where the biggest names are. Meaning, if you are not as an actor at a competitive enough level, you're going to sink like a stone, and it's like small fish in an ocean as opposed to big fish in a small pond type scenario. So what you might want to do is go to a smaller market first, something like say Seattle or Chicago, where there is a voice acting scene, but it's not enormous, and get your base there. Okay. And that way, you're already like thinking along the lines. You can once you start feeling like I'm kicking a lot of. Oh, that's right, I can swear now. I'm kicking a lot of ass here. Sweet, I don't need this bullshit anymore. Let me go to Los Angeles. There you go. I would say in terms of acting, theater, if you can't take voice acting lessons specifically, theater is a great way to go. The two talents transfer back and forth very, very well. It's a similar kind of thing where it's like, you have to, I don't want to say you have to overact, but you have to like project more. You have to think about people who can't see your face, which is basically what voice acting is. They can't see your face. So, for instance, on-camera people tend to have a lot of difficulty switching back over because they'll be in a position where they're so used to using very subtle facial features because there's a close-up and their hand gestures and their body language. I worked on a show. I won't say which because I don't want to embarrass the actor. Where he would perform a line. This was a cartoon show, and then he'd say, "Hang on, one more time." Perform the line. It would sound exactly the same. Hang on, one more time. Perform the line exactly the same. And after a while, he kept doing this. I looked at him, and he would do a different position, different facial expression, but the sound was exactly the same, and he had no idea. So I would say theater's a great prep. I would say save up that money because Los Angeles is brutally expensive. Everything there. Everything is expensive. Rent is expensive. Food is expensive. Gas is expensive. So you really want to plan that stuff out. The last thing you want to do is get like stuck with just no money and wind up like just couch hopping if you have a bunch of friends. And that's the other thing too. Have friends. So basically means like get to know other voice actors, especially whether they're up and coming, whether they're established, because everybody hustles. And if you're in with a bunch of people who are all hustling together, eventually you're going to start making inroads, and that's how you'll wind up getting into various studios.
Gotcha. Any specific schools in Seattle or Chicago that you would recommend to look at?
Schools for acting. Let's see. I can honestly say I'm not familiar enough with those areas. I just know in terms of voice acting, they're, I would say, like sort of second tier. So it's not like the big leagues yet. But I would say, yeah, really, if it's at least somewhat reputable, and most of the stuff you can look up online and see reviews and see what people think, as long as it's somebody who really knows what they're talking about, or better yet, has produced students who've gone on to work and done some impressive stuff, that's always a good way to figure that stuff out.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there any character that you wanted, maybe you even got a chance to audition and didn't get, that you really wanted, or is there maybe a current thing that you would want to be a part of as far as a project?
There is, and I lost it, but the guy who got it is like perfect for it, so I can't even be like, man, he's like a nice guy. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what his name is, even though it's like really, really obvious to anybody who listens to this stuff. But it is, the new PlayStation 4 Spider-Man game? Okay. I always wanted to be Spider-Man in a video game and get to do motion capture for him. Okay. And that's what it was. But it was like the right guy. He's like a really nice dude, and he sounds great in the game. So, question?
Oh yeah. What's up, Ben? I got two questions though. Besides being the voice of Stitch from Chorus Stitch, what was it like being the voice of Quincy from the Sonic Boom series and Lance from the Pokemon Generations shorts?
Okay. So for Quincy from Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric is actually me doing an impression of Krillin from Dragon Ball Z Abridged. That's actually what that's supposed to be. I'm not good at impressions, so it's technically an original character who also I guess sounds kind of like Don Knotts. We're just like, we need a robot and he's going to be really worried all the time. So just kind of sound like always stressed out. I'm like, okay. Lance was an interesting thing for me because I wanted to be in anything Pokemon just so I could be like, I did Digimon and Pokemon. But Lance is cool. Yeah, he's a cool character. That whole series was a really unusual setup. We were doing this with like a brand new studio. We did this with a director who I'd never worked with before, and so if I could be real with you, I'm not entirely pleased with my performance in that. It kind of like, it felt kind of to me very stiff and forced, and it didn't really work for me.
Don't get me down on that number one.
I'm sorry.
You did great.
Oh well, thank you. I appreciate it. No, just anytime I get to like just play some character that I don't normally get to play, it's always a treat for me. I recently played this guy named Satoru in a show called Erased, and it was neat because for me, like, he's just a regular dude, and usually I play the super zany, over-the-top characters, and it was like, no, man, just be like a guy, and that's his whole persona. Is just, yeah, I'm just a regular guy. And, I have like this superpower or whatever, but my life just kind of sucks. And it's just kind of like, oh, this is weird to just be just a real character, a real person, and so I always like getting like challenges and fun stuff like that. Thank you for the question, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, anytime.
Hey. Yes, sir.
When you were doing your Joseph Joestar, did you ever channel your inner Nigel Uno?
I think the whole thing is basically Nigel Uno. It's just like, okay, this time I won't pitch my voice up at all. I'm going to make it deeper. But Joseph Joestar is just like, because a friend of mine, her name's Kira Buckland, she's a voice actor as well. She's like she's probably the second biggest JoJo fan on the face of the earth. The only other bigger one would be like a friend of hers. And she basically annoys everybody in our friend group with JoJo memes and JoJo stuff all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Kira's show. Holy cow. So getting to be a part of that was just really, really awesome. And yeah, the whole first season is just nuts. Because I'm really glad I got to play Joseph. Because Jonathan is cool, but like his whole story arc is just kind of like, it's a vampire thing. Yeah, but there's like, and he punches people with sunlight, which is cool. But I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then Battle Tendencies, where everything just starts going completely bonkers with like the craziest stuff. And then it goes into part 3, which is totally nuts. It goes off in a different direction. And that's what I think, that's what I love about that series, is it really lives up to the name Bizarre. And it's just really fun. And you can just watch it and you're like, this is like some of the most gruesome stuff ever, but it's really funny too. So, yeah, thank you. Yes.
You've done some voice work in video games. Do you have a favorite one you voiced for?
Okay, this is stupid. So there's this game, and I maybe one of you guys played this. It's called Drakengard 3.
Yo!
There it is. There's the one. Call it or what? Okay. So for those of you guys who are like, what the heck? Wait, what is it? I've never played it, so he could probably describe this better than me. But the idea is this: you are a female character who commands an army, and you have like a number. So it's like, I'm Lady 1, I'm Lady 2, I'm Lady 3. That's how we refer to them. So no matter who you pick, you're going to have the same group of voice actors playing your army. So like maybe you're like the evil plant lady, and you have like plant zombie people. It's us just being zombies. But everybody in the army is some like badass tough guy. Somebody like, yeah, let's kill that dragon. Yes, I will fight for Lady 3. I play Soldier G. It's just a letter. It's not actually a character name. I'm the chicken shit soldier. And it's like badass tough guys with sounding like ready to go to war, and it's like everybody that I know, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course it's Patrick Sykes being a tough guy. It's that kind of thing. You hear me going, I just don't want to die. No, God, no. Dragon, kill the dragon. Holy shit, is that a dragon? Most people have not played that game and don't give a darn about Soldier G. That's probably my favorite game out of everything I play, just because it's like so ridiculous and stupid. That's it.
What's the hardest voice?
Hardest voice, like physically to do?
Like difficult, technical or vocal?
Vocally, the toughest voice I've done, it's a toss-up. One is Venom from Spectacular Spider-Man, because it's basically 4 different throat-ripping voices that alternate back and forth between each other, kind of in a cycle. And I had to do that for like 5 hours straight, and it destroyed my voice for about a week, where I couldn't even talk.
Oh no.
But the other one is, it's this voice right here. It's, I had to do it for like this game called Sick Bricks, which is kind of like a Lego knockoff.
Sick Bricks.
Sick Bricks. And it's brought to life. It's like Toys to Life kind of thing. But I played this character called Xenomorph, I think. Or no, not Xenomorph, that's trademark. It was like Xeno guy or something like that. Anyway, it's like an alien, like from the Alien movies. But in the shorts that we did, a little series of animated shorts, it's just, and that's it. In the game, he talks. It's technically a queen. She talks, and she has like full sentences, so I had to say it over and over again until you could understand what I was saying. Basically, it's really difficult to do this voice and have it be, something you can understand. And after just like a couple of lines, I was like, hey man, can we save this for the last one? Because I won't be able to do anything after this. So we did all the other voices, had to come back, and then I did that one, and then that was, I was just done. I couldn't speak the rest of the day. I'm sorry. No more of that, please. Yes.
Can you give us a lecture in darkness?
Darkness. Your heart is consumed by it, whether you were born in the light or born in the shadows within. None of this is actually real. Your reality is mine to control.
Everything young Xehanort says is just that. Working on Kingdom Hearts is one of the most baffling experiences because they don't tell you what any of the lines actually mean. So they're just like, emphasize this word, go up at the end of this word, go down at the end of this word. And you say it, and it's like, it almost sounds like you're in a dream trying to understand the meaning. And it's true, because you really are trying to understand the meaning of what the f you're saying. And it's so confused, but like, then they play for you, and you go, oh, that's what that meant. So like, when I actually played Dream Drop Distance, I'm going, oh, oh, that's okay. When he's like, oh, your heart is a prison, he literally means another person is trapped within that guy's heart. That's what it is. And then, okay, finally I get it. But that's what that reference is for this. You guys going, why did he want to talk about darkness? Anyway, that's what that is. Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on Seven Deadly Sins Season 2?
I want it to come out already. I want us to dub it, because we still haven't done that. I don't think they're finished producing the actual animation yet. But as soon as it's ready to be dubbed, oh yeah, we're gonna do that. I can't wait. It's a fun show to work on. Bon is like this dude who's like super chill because he's immortal. Nothing can kill him. So it's just kind of like,
yeah, you know, I mean, there's really no point in trying or worrying about anything because, yeah, you blow me up, we'll just pop back to life. So it's just, it's like such a chill action show of all things, and I like it. It's just fun. Any question again?
Yeah. One of your performances that I really admire is Ryuji in Persona 5. And I was just wondering how you get into the sort of mindset to deliver something that sounds, you know, just incredibly natural and like you're just my dude, bro, Ryuji. Like there's no sort of, there didn't seem to me like there was any sort of like real, like anime overtones to his voice. He just sounded really natural.
This is from Persona 5?
Yeah.
I got into character by not playing that character. It's not real. I am technically in Persona 5, but I'm like a random background character that you might talk to like once in a while.
Seriously?
Yeah.
You're thinking of Max Middleman.
Oh, not again! Max, it probably is.
Dude, Google just completely fucked me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's okay.
I looked up the voice, so I'm like, I have to know who does Ryuji. Oh, Ben Diskin. Awesome, I like him.
Nope. It's probably Max.
I'm so sorry. I did not mean to confuse you.
So everybody does, and it's like an ongoing gag. If you guys
my
went to behindthevoiceactors.com, it's a website. Woo! Cool, it's okay. Oh, you're on it right now. So like Max Middleman has a page there, and I just went on as pretending to be obviously me, but pretending to not be me, and just started saying like, "Oh, this guy sucks. He sounds like Ben Diskin." Everybody gets that. And now we're also on a show together, which is the new Spider-Man series. He's Harry Osborn, and I'm Flash Thompson. But the ironic thing is that Robbie Damon, who plays Spider-Man, is the notes that they're constantly getting is, you guys sound too similar. You have to separate your voices more, and it's so like basically everybody sounds like each other.
Okay.
Yeah. So don't worry about it. I'm completely used to that.
Yes. Another question I thought of this because you were talking about your young Xehanort role. When you got to do that role, were you excited about that? Because Kingdom Hearts has so much games and story behind it, or were you like, oh, this Kingdom Hearts thing, okay.
I honestly, because I played 1 and 2, I have not played this. I guess they're technically spin-off series, but they're actually vital to the freaking plot. But I haven't played any of them, so like I've been like, okay, I remember 1 and I remember 2 vaguely, but it's been so long. But the weird thing with that is that I didn't audition for it. So there was a game, Final Fantasy 13. When they were auditioning for it, they were very secretive about it, and I'm not joking, they called it Codename Yellow P. The letter P, technically, but anyway, and I was like, funny guys. But so, all the names were changed, and so what they wanted was at the beginning of every single one of your auditions, you had to say, "Hi, my name is Ben Diskin, I've read and agreed to the non-disclosure agreement, and I'm auditioning for the role of," and then you say the name of the character, and then you go into the sides. They wanted that, which is really unusual, but they demanded that. So I was like, okay. I auditioned for like about 12 different characters for that, and then I'd completely forgotten to record that whole spiel at the beginning. So I was like, oh, I don't want to re-record it for all those things. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to do one take of just that thing, and then just add in Ace, Josh, Steve, like, or whatever at the end of it, just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. So I get a call saying, like, we want you to be in this new Kingdom Hearts game. And I'm like, I didn't audition for this. I wonder how I got it. Maybe they just love me for no reason, even though I don't know anybody there. So they brought me in, and they're like, here's what we liked. It wasn't an audition for this game. It was this. And so they played an audition for, I guess it would have been Ace. And but they kept stopping it before the actual audition. And I'm like, I don't get it. What do you want? Like, there should be more after that. They're like, no. The non-disclosure thing that you said at the beginning, that's why we hired him. Because it just sounded so soulless. Mysterious. Like, blah, 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 I'm trying out for the role. They were like, that's young Xehanort. So we're going to put him in the game, and that's how I got him. So it was an honor, and also like, oh, you never know, do you? Kind of mysterious circumstance. Yes, again, yeah.
I know you're like talking about Spider-Man, but ultimate question: Marvel or DC?
Marvel. I like DC. I like Batman. He's awesome. And I like certain other characters in the DC universe. But the reason I pick Marvel is because they keep hiring me. That's the main reason. But I actually like them both. I can't really.
What was your favorite voice acting experience?
Oh, that's really hard. A lot of different shows and projects just mean a lot to me in completely different ways. It would probably though be Kids Next Door because it was like for me it was like this show that came completely out of nowhere. The way I wound up getting those two roles was totally unlikely, and it was just it felt like, I mean, like, I'm not a super religious person, but I was like, holy cow, like there is a God, because this would have normally never happened. And so I would say probably Codename Kids Next Door. Yeah.
Hey, how did you feel when you finally got to voice, when you voiced Joseph in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
I was super thrilled, you know. I mean, that whole show was really, really cool, and I just, yeah, I loved it. It was. We recorded that show super fast. Like there were like a couple of weeks where I would be in every single day of the week from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then an hour break, and then 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Going and going and going, because we had like a crazy, I guess it was a time crunch from maybe Warner Japan. I'm not really sure who said like, yo, let's go. But it was still a really fun experience, and I really enjoyed it. So it was awesome. To answer your question. Yes.
So a lot of voice actors get the same group of people always coming after them for the same roles over and over again. What's a role that you've done that you wish people would come up to you more often and just recognize you for that work? Anything like that?
It would probably be Satoru from Erased, just because it's such an obscure show and it's only on like Hulu, and the Blu-rays are very expensive, so a lot of people just don't want to shell out the money. It's Aniplex, and you know they charge. Well, they charge quite a bit, so it would probably be that one, because I'm actually like pretty proud of that one. And I don't, honestly, I'm my own harshest critic. I basically loathe almost everything I've done. So when I see something, I'm like, you know, I'm kind of proud of that. That's like, wow, that's actually probably a pretty good performance by other people's standards. So I would say probably that one though. Thank you. Yes.
When you go and get material, or they call you up for an audition, how do you decide which one you just wanted to or not wanted to? Is there anything like a list that has to meet for you?
Oh, I mean, for me, I've been doing this a while, so I just kind of know what I can and can't do. For instance, for me, a big one is if it calls for singing, I immediately turn it down, because I am a horrible singer. I know the exact degree to which I'm a horrible singer, and I'm like, look, if you want a character to sing comedically poorly, yo, no problem. But if you actually want me to hit notes, oh god. And so, for some reason, and I don't know why, the past 3 shows that I've worked on, they haven't aired yet, so I can't tell you what they are, I've had to sing. And I'm like, oh, this is my nightmare. I don't want to do this. So like, I guess I can say this one. It probably won't get me into too much trouble. One of them is an upcoming episode of the new Powerpuff Girls cartoon. So, yeah, and my character's supposed to be like some sort of like Justin Bieber-ish thing, and I'm like, Justin Bieber can actually sing. I mean, despite what you might think of him, but like he actually can hit notes. He can sing, and I'm like, I can't do that. But now I have to try. So that's going to be entertaining to see how that turned out. But, so yeah, but and the other thing would probably just be if it's a character that I really like that I feel like I could actually do something with. If I look at it and I'm just like, oh, it's generic guy A. If there's several characters that sound similar, I'll pick one of them that I like, and then just leave the other ones out. And it's just to not waste casting director's time.
How do you do that? Like, how do you create a completely new character, especially doing so many different characters now? Like,
everything is kind of connected. So you know, you can always mix and match various things. You know, I mean, sometimes you'll start off. For me, a lot of things are just terrible impressions of other things, because I'm a bad voice match guy. If you ever need like, there's one celebrity I can actually do a pretty solid voice match for, and it's like the most useless voice match because he does voiceover. And it's Seth Green, because it's just me talking like this. Like, hey guys, yeah, it's me, Seth Green. I really wish Ben Diskin would stop doing this God awful impression of me, but like, this is basically what Seth Green sounds like. It's just me with like a little more gravel in my voice, and that's it. And that's it. That's the only thing I can do. But like, yeah, so everything else is just a horrible impression, and then you just go, you know what? What if I add an accent? What if I tweak this? What if I add a little more gravel to the voice? What if I make it smoother? And after a while, you hit something, you look at a picture of a character, and you go, you know what? I can picture that voice coming out of that guy.
Do you get that a lot, where you can actually create a character? Because I know probably they come to you and they want, oh, this person's going to be dark or light, or description.
Yes, it's always actor's choice at the end, because it's whatever I want to submit. And if it's something, if I look at the description, it says we want a tough guy sound, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm looking at this character image and he just doesn't seem that, and the lines don't work with that. You know what? I'm going to make him like a really friendly sounding guy. And just, you know, it's like, hey bro, I'm going to rip your arms off and beat you to death with them. All right. You know, like, and I'll submit that, you know, and sometimes they go, hey man, I'm going to rip your arms off and beat you to death with them. From like, you know, 20 different people, and then they hear that, they go, that's funny. You know what? We should have that guy come in. And even if I don't book that character, they'll have me in for something else. And so it's, you know, it's just about being creative, I think. Yes?
So two that kind of bleed into one, post throat ripper recovery and being able, and how do you act through like sinus or throat infections?
Okay. I've never had a sinus or throat infection, so
Okay.
I can't entirely answer that. After throat ripping stuff, well, okay, so I'm sure a lot of people, maybe you don't know his name, but I'm sure you've heard his voice, Fred Tatasciore. Anybody?
Yes.
Okay, so he's best known for playing the Incredible Hulk, which is a throat-ripping voice. It's just, and 3 minutes and no response. So that kind of thing. He has what is basically all-natural Chinese cough syrup. Everybody just calls it Hulk juice. And that's kind of, it pretty much adds a protective layer around your throat. So when you know you have a really bad thing, a lot of people will get some of that stuff and drink it. I don't, because I'm stupid. So I'm one of those like all-natural voiceover guys where I'm just like, yeah, this is probably gonna hurt. Let's do it. And I just wind up kind of paying for it. But I'm fortunate that I have very, very resilient vocal cords. I did karate for like about 20 years. Technically, I still do, but I haven't had time for it lately, which really sucks. But it's just, I'm so used to yelling that it's kind of like, I've kind of built up a tolerance to it. Unless it's extreme for several hours, then I will kind of crash and burn. But ultimately, the rule of thumb is this: if you're doing an audition for something and it kind of hurts, don't do that voice, because of course that's the one you're going to book, and then you're going to be stuck doing that voice, and you're going to be in a lot of pain, and it's going to mess up everything else that you try to audition for.
Ugh, I don't want that.
No, nobody should. Yes.
How do you go from the super deep stuff to the, frankly, horrifying cute mon?
So, cute mon?
Which is a voice that sounds like this.
That was you? Joseph Joestar.
I developed that voice because I was watching the Cross Wars original show in Japanese with English subtitles, and I was like, I know what it is. I want to play that guy. If this show ever gets done, I want to play that guy. And apparently, because there were some issues with the translation, they thought he was a girl, and I was like, listen, no, he's a boy. I know he's pink and he's adorable and his name's Cutemon. He's a dude, so let me play him. And they're just like, no, Ben, just don't. And I'm like,
can I just do this voice as a temp voice?
They were like, sure, okay. And then finally, like, it just became like this thing. They were just like, you know, we're just going to use it. And I'm like, so the reason I can do that is just because after watching it for so long, I just kept trying different things until I wound up just falling into something that stuck. And it's kind of like carving a groove in your voice. Like eventually, it's like muscle memory. You just go, oh, I have to tighten this much. I have to loosen this part up. I have to lean my head forward this much. And eventually, you just kind of like stick with it. And the deep stuff is all about opening everything up. It's like when you belch, right? It comes out, everything opens up. So
To do a deeper voice, everything has to be wider in order for it to sound like that.
And then of course if they crank up the gain on the microphone,
I'd have to double that. I'd have to duplicate that by just bringing this very close to my voice. You can do a deeper voice because it's usually quieter.
Yelling in a deep voice is the hard part. So for instance, one of the guys, and I'm trying to blank on his name and it kills me. This dude is, if you've ever seen the Underworld series of movies, the werewolf stuff, this guy played the werewolf captain. He's this big black dude. And he has a voice that sounds like evil Kermit the Frog. It's that guy. And at first I thought he was just doing this voice, like, because he was really proud of it, and he wouldn't stop doing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what he sounds like. Holy cow, that's his real voice. But when he had to yell, it would sound like this. No! It's so hard to project and still sound deep. So usually everything is kind of a cheat, and it'll be like, instead of goddamn, it's gonna go goddamn right now. And they crank up the gain so to make it sound like it's a yell, but it's actually almost a projected whisper.
encouragement for future voice actors that you could say using a few different voices.
Okay.
Whatever you do, don't pursue this as a career. Your mom is going to be very, very disappointed in you because you spend all day long doing ridiculous voices that bother your sister. And you know you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to get a real job.
I hope that inspired a generation.
It'll at least make them laugh.
Okay. We still have like 30 minutes, don't we?
I told you this guy was
A little less than that. 13.
Damn! Oh my gosh, we're actually making this work. Holy cow. Does anybody else have questions? Yes.
Who's best JoJo?
Who's best JoJo? Joseph. Yo, man, I'm sorry. And it's not just because I play him. I love Joseph. I think he's cool. He's the first funny Joseph. He's the first funny Joe Star to me.
I can agree with that in a heartbeat.
Thank you. Jonathan is cool, but he's too serious for me. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're a really good guy, and you're always trying to do the right thing. And Joseph's like, this shit, I love the whole, do you see how strong these legs are? Well, that leads me to the following plan. Run away! Oh, okay. So, yeah, Joseph is best JoJo. But to be fair, I'm not super familiar with parts 4 and onward, so that's, but yeah.
His opening scene is assaulting a cop.
Yeah, but that cop is a dick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't agree with beating up police officers, but come on. He went to booger on him. Screw that. Yes?
Could you do your best JoJo pose?
Okay. Send that to me and I'll make it my Twitter account. I would actually do that to myself. Yes.
Of the series that you have done, which one of them would be a world that you would like to live in?
Oh, huh. I don't know. They're all kind of violent. I guess Digimon, because everybody's made a data anyway, and you can just get recycled. So I would say I guess Digimon would be fun-ish. I mean, everybody's always trying to kill each other, so yeah, I don't know. But yeah, pretty much everything I've been in. Yeah.
Is there anything left you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's willing to hire me, I'm usually willing to work. I mean, this is also my job. So, but I just want to work on really fun and interesting projects. So much of this stuff it's not just about oh, are you making a living? Granted, I do want to do that. It's kind of important to me to be able to, eat. But if I'm having fun, if it's just a really unique experience that I'm like, oh man, when's the last time anybody's ever gotten to do this? Those new experiences to me, whatever form they come in, they're always worthwhile to me. So.
How about personal then?
Personal?
Yeah. Anything personal that you still want to do?
Oh, I mean, I want to say see the world, but I'm the guy who's oh, I just want to stay home and watch Netflix. So, in reality, probably not. But yeah, I mean, maybe go skydiving, which is really stupid because I am afraid of heights. So, but there's a part of me that's but I love flying. Yeah, just don't look. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna say skydiving, but don't hold me to that. Don't be when are you on skydiving, man? On Twitter, I'll be
completely random, not voice acted related question, but what kind of music do you like?
Oh, I have a really just eclectic sense, everything from Weird Al to punk rock to just anything with a good beat, I guess. I wound up listening to a lot of Nightcore stuff because my girlfriend is into that. So various things that I find through that. Go fig.
Also, I personally want to say thank you for being number 1 and number 2 and being part of our childhood.
Aw, well, it was kind of part of my childhood too. So I'm glad to be a part of it, man. Appreciate it. It's always so weird, by the way, guys, because when we were making this show and it was actually like airing for the first time on TV, I was an assistant instructor, like I said, in a martial arts dojo, and we would teach kids. None of them knew what the show was. Not a single one of them. The creator, on the other hand, this was back when he was living in New York. He'd meet kids all the time. We're like, I love Kids Next Door. And he's like, oh, that's so awesome. I created that. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, where are these people? They don't exist. They're not real. And then I started doing cons and everybody's like, oh my gosh, Kids Next Door. I grew up with that. I'm like, really? Where were you? Oh my gosh. Oh, God.
Next door, apparently.
I do have a voice acting related. So in the industry, when you're working on a new project or just a project in general, how elaborate is the process usually? Is it usually like a big ordeal, a lot of people, a lot of stuff going on, or is it usually smaller, tighter knit? And what is the best environment that you prefer to work in?
Are you talking about specifically my part of the industry?
Well, like your experience with the industry when you go in to do a voicing role and you walk in, either you're in a booth with a microphone or you've got like people everywhere.
Oh, well, it depends. So certain projects, usually video games, are done, it's just you. Because there's so many different characters, they can't possibly cram, like, 500 voice actors in a booth. That experience is different because you're super reliant on the director, which is the same for anime, by the way. Because it's one person whose job it is to make sure the entire game or anime sounds uniform. Like nobody's like too cartoony when they're not supposed to be, or too realistic when they're not supposed to be. Everybody has the same tone. But for like an animated series, like an original one, it's ensemble. So there's a whole bunch of actors in the room and everybody plays off of each other. There's usually on the other side of the glass of the recording booth, there's writers, there's producers, there's the director, there's the voice director, and everybody will have their own say, everybody pitches in, and people will improvise and throw things around back and forth. So it really just depends on the project, I guess, is the best way to answer your question. It's just really, sometimes it's very, very controlled. It's like 3 people. It's the engineer, the voice director, and the actor, and that's it. And other times, it's a whole ordeal with a whole bunch of people and a giant cast of characters.
And what is your preferred?
I bounce back and forth. Well, it's ensemble work is really fun unless you have barely any lines, in which case you're mostly just sitting there and you're kind of like looking up stuff on your phone, like following along vaguely in the script. But like when you have a lot to do, then you feel like more like you're part of the group. With stuff that's solo performance, it's very heavily focused on you, so it's you, and you don't really get much in the way of a vocal break. It'll be like maybe a 5-minute break, and then back to you for another hour. But at the same time, everybody has to pay attention to you. So, for instance, if you kind of get lost in the shuffle for an ensemble project where it's like, you do a line and then nobody pays attention to you, and the director has a tough time remembering you. With this, it's just you. And so the director might go, you're really good, because there's nobody else drawing my attention away. So it's kind of, each one has their own pluses and minuses. I would say, right now, I would say probably ensemble, because I'm getting to work on more of those right now, and it's really fun to just be able to be in the same room with all these different performers, but they both have their benefits.
What does your shirt say?
Oh, it's...
That is awesome.
I believe it's Shark Robot, I'm not sure.
I was trying to read it, and I couldn't read past the word bigger, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's inappropriate.
Bigger, harder, longer, faster. Not talking Daft Punk.
I see somebody reluctantly having their hand held up.
How did you like voicing Yata Mizaki from Care Project?
Yata. It was fun because Yata from K is basically this, like, he's kind of a wannabe badass. Like, he's tough, he's cool, but he has this like ridiculous thing where he can't talk to women at all, and he becomes completely nervous, so you're kind of like, oh. at the same time, and then he'll like ride around on a skateboard and beat people up with a baseball bat. So I like getting to kind of like go back and forth between like shy Yata, who's like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable. I'm not gonna talk to women. You talk to women. I'm not gonna do it. And be like, you know, fuck you, man. I'll kick your ass. And it's also basically slightly older number 2, so it's me getting to be a foul-mouthed bastard as a character I've played before. So I liked it for that reason. Yes.
For like free time, do you like to play board games, video games, go to music parks?
Yes, except for the music part. See, anything involves going outside. Slow your roll, buddy. I don't know, I kind of burn easily. Then it's night. I kind of freeze easily. Okay, I just don't want to go to this damn party. Like, my thing for me is like, okay, we used to have parties at my agency. We don't do it anymore. It would be like a holiday party. So the way this building is set up, there's multiple things within it, so there'll be like a construction company or something like that within this building. Anyway, it's from one end all the way to the other. It's like a giant greenhouse, and you can basically just walk from one end all the way down to the other end and leave. So what I did one time, because I was just like, I'm so anti-party and I'm very shy. Don't let the fact that I'm talking to you guys in front of you on a microphone fool you. I'm actually a really quiet person. I went to the party and I started like shaking hands, going, hey, yeah, it's so great to be here. It's good to see you. All right, I'm gonna go say hi to this guy. Hey, what's up? And I did this zigzag pattern all the way to the other end. And at the other end, I was like, yo, man, I've been here this whole time. Listen, I got this other place. I gotta bounce. And I left 5 minutes, the whole thing. And everybody there got to see me. I was there. I made an impression, and then I left. And I'm like, thank you, God. I get to go back home. It's safe and quiet. Nobody will bother me because I'm so shy. And to answer your question, yeah, video games are great. I watch a lot of TV, probably more than I should. And I don't like reading books because my mom is an English teacher, you guys. She forced me to read as a kid so hard that I now hate reading. And it's a shame because there's some really good stuff out there, and I'm like, yeah, shame I'll never read that. But it saved me from Twilight, so yeah.
Oh, Josh, don't break that up. Number 1.
I'm sorry.
It's good.
Questions?
It's 6:30, by the way.
Oh, it is 6:30. All right, we'll do one more question, okay?
Are there any crazy fan experience that you wouldn't mind sharing?
I haven't had, I'm lucky. I have not had any really bad fan. The worst fan experience I've ever had was a dude took his picture with me, and the guy who was taking the picture was having trouble with the camera, like figuring out how to get the cell phone to work right. And as he was doing it, the guy just kept like stroking my shoulder. And it had that light touch where he's just like, oh, it's itchy. I'm just like, smile. No, don't talk, just be a good guy. So the picture of me is like, because it was just really, yeah. That's like the absolute like worst thing. So it's basically like, no, I haven't had any real serious like, oh, this guy's a stalker and he tried to molest me. Like nothing has happened like that because unfortunately that kind of stuff does happen with female voice actors. They get yikes. They get some of the worst people out there. A friend of mine, like Kira Buckland, who's the JoJo's fan, she had to like file a restraining order against this one dude who was sending her death threats. Like, oh yeah, no, it's like, wow. Yeah, there is a difference. There really is. And on that positive about death and being groped or whatever, thank you so much for coming out to me.
You started off by saying kids next door battle station.
Okay, but I'm going to turn this off so nobody goes deaf.
Okay, wait. Alright.
Kids next door! Battle station!
I'm going to use my ear back.